Now, back to Al Gainey on North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9, WDUN.
All right, back with you on the Al Gainey Show, and on the line with us is Dr. Bill Green. He is a proponent of the Constitutional Tender Act. Now, when I first heard this, I said, what is this all about? You know, the U.S. Constitution says in Article 1, Section 10 that no state shall basically make anything but gold and silver coin a tender of payment and debts. And, you know, every state, though, in the U.S. does make some other thing besides gold and silver coin a tender in payments of debts. You know, Dr. Green, welcome to the show. And why is there a need for this kind of bill?
Hey, Al, I appreciate you having me on.
Sure.
There's a need because Georgia, in this particular case, just like every other state, as you said, is in violation of the United States Constitution. This bill would bring the state back into compliance with that mandate given in Article 1, Section 10, that no state can use anything in either paying or receiving money except gold and silver. And so what's happened is, specifically since 1971, when Nixon took us completely off the gold standard and our dollars became backed by absolutely nothing, the states went into noncompliance with the U.S. Constitution. And so this bill would bring us back into compliance, and secondarily, it would bring value back to the money of the citizens of the state.
Well, you know, as you look at this, there has not been much said about it in the media. At least I haven't heard it. And you have to ask I have to ask the question, when you take a look at what the other states are doing, and I understand there's 7, 8, maybe 9 states that are introducing this bill. Number one, who's pushing this in the state of Georgia right now? Because we're dealing with Georgia, and I understand there is going to be a bill dropped in January.
In Georgia, the bill is actually being pushed by a grassroots effort. There's no any organization that's pushing it. There's no any business that's pushing it. It's just the grassroots people that are pushing it. Specifically, people across the state that understand that. And that's more and more people now, that their dollar is losing value more and more. It's going at a quicker rate now than it ever has in the past. But because of the Federal Reserve coming in a century ago, since that time, the dollar has lost over 95% of its value. What you used to buy for a nickel, it now takes $1 to buy. Well, if you've got gold and silver, that is the standard of what's being used, gold and silver don't ever lose their value. If something cost an ounce of silver in 1915, it's going to cost an ounce of silver today. So no one's specifically pushing the bill. I helped to author the bill, and Representative Bobby Franklin has introduced the bill. In the last session, he introduced it, and it got a great hearing before the combined subcommittees of the Banks and Banking Committee in the House. But the only organized effort that there is in terms of pushing on this bill is pushing against it, and that's from the professional lobbyists from the Georgia Banking Association and the Community Banking Association of Georgia. The bankers are worried that this bill, this is what they told us specifically, they're worried that this bill would change the way they do business.
Right.
And our response was, you know, how is that a bad thing? Georgia leads the nation in bank failures.
Yeah, I mean, that's number one on my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, having been a banker for 22-plus years, and a lot of that in the state of Georgia, I'm asking the question, how would this logistically work? We're almost, you know, unfortunately, we've only got a couple of minutes or a minute or so, but how would this work logistically, and is it getting traction?
Those are actually two great questions. If folks want to go in depth into this, they can go to constitutionaltender.com. There's a whole lot of questions that are answered and videos and so forth. But specifically, how this would work is the bill will be passed. State banks that are chartered by the state of Georgia would then be required to allow accounts to be opened not only in Federal Reserve notes, the dollars that we have now, but also in legal tender gold and silver coins that are minted by the U.S. government. They're minted right now, and they are legal tender. And so they would be required to allow people to open those accounts, and the state would be required to open accounts with its banks that it would then, on a specific day, a year after the bill's passed, it would then convert all of its dollars over to gold and silver. And from that point on, if there were contracts that are supposed to be fulfilled, they are to be delineated in gold and silver, whether it's taxes, rebates, anything like that. And it's not a difficult thing to do. And I say that it's a difficult transition at the first. Mm-hmm. But I say that because there can easily be a transition such as you have, if you go down the border with Mexico, you're going to see things in pesos and dollars. It's not a hard thing for conversion. And so conversion would take place on a specific day, and then as things go forward, people will see that their dollars are becoming worth less and less, and their actual money is becoming worth more and more, and that's how it's going to work for the citizens of Georgia.
Hey, listen, Dr. Bill Green, interesting topic this morning, and folks, give that website quickly one more time, Doc.
ConstitutionalTender.com.
ConstitutionalTender.com. Thank you so much for being with me this morning. We'll have to have you back in the future and see how it's going. Thanks you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Al.
Thank you very much.
Al Gainey on North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.